What's up, everybody? It's book review time, and this time I read The 12-Week Year by Mr. Brian P. Moran. I'll tell you what, this is a book that I think pretty much anyone and everyone can benefit from. I generally don't say that very often because I know that there are a lot of people who are highly successful, highly organized, that don't procrastinate, who live and die by their calendar. But what if I told you this was a little bit different perspective? I mean, yes, for some of you out there, there are some really great reminders. For some of you out there, you might not get a lot of new stuff, but you might get what you need when you need it. So, what if I told you that everything you plan to get done in a year, you could accomplish in 12 weeks? Well, if you would have told me that before I read this book, I would have called BS. I just, don't believe it. I'm one who tends to work 6 days a week, get my 40 hours in easily, often by the time I'm halfway through Friday. And so, for someone who enjoys working, who puts in plenty of time at night, on weekends, when my kids are sleeping, I feel like I'm a hard worker. But guess what? There is always something to improve on. And it's not about working more. It's not even working smarter, not just harder, because I think that's become very, very cliche. But you know what? It's crazy. And I'm going to tell you, this book lays out the system that it's not just about working harder or smarter, like I said, but it's about executing better. And I think that's the big thing most of us need to hear is it's execution. We all have good intentions. We all have things on our planner. And sometimes we have the goals, but it's just, does it get done? And oftentimes it doesn't. So, core summary of the book. The big idea here is that annual goals don't work. And believe me, I'm one who's tried this, tried and true. I do an annual self audit. And I always ask myself, Chris, did you get where you want to go? Did you accomplish your goals? Could you have done more? And most of the time it's like, no, I didn't, or I fell a little short, or I could have done a lot more. Doesn't mean it was a bad year, but it gives us too much time, these annual goals, to procrastinate. So instead, the author challenges us to think about 12 weeks in a year, a 12-week year, if you will. And yeah, that's right. You did hear me correctly. A 12-week year where you set big goals and you break into them with weekly actions. In fact, if anything, it's daily actions so you can win the week, win the month when you win the weeks, and of course, then you start to win the quarter and you win the year. But when you win the week and you track them like your success depends on it, because it does. Your success depends on stacking weekly and daily victories. Ultimately, when you read this book, you're going to find 5 core disciplines that this book was founded on. There are a couple that are important. Number 1 is vision. Know what you want long term and why it matters. So as someone who's been in this business for a long time, I ask the question. I ask the question to my marketing clients. What is it that you're after? What do you want? And some people would say, well, Chris, well, that's obvious. I want more business. But that's not a vision. Wanting more of something is not tangible enough for you to go out and do something about it tomorrow. What does that mean? Work harder, work more, spend more on ads? That doesn't mean anything. And so this book will help you craft a crystal clear vision of what you want so that you can start defining it and putting it into a plan, which is number 2. So the author then defines in the planning phase, how do you break that vision into a 12-week plan? And that's right, we're talking about 12 weeks like we're talking about a quarter. So over the course of those 3 months, how do you execute to achieve that? Ultimately, it starts with a vision, and the vision cascades into the plan. Number 3 is process control. For a lot of us, we don't have systems. People say, oh, I've got this plan, and I've got that system, and this is how I do that. Well, most of the time, the vision's in our head, the plan is in our head, and the process is in our head. And if it's in your head and not in document form, or if you don't have a system to process to hold you accountable, you're not going to get there. Why would you get there? You shouldn't even expect to get there. And so it's really about creating a system for which you can start to execute. because you need a system to develop routines. And when you have a system and you have routines, you then have a structure. And structure and routines are doing things consistently over the course of time. And as I've told a lot of my clients, I've found success in business as a leader by two main things. That's right, two main things. Number one is being strategic and being consistent. If you do that, you have that structure, consistency wins the race every time. The fourth one is measurement. Now, again, I know this seems very elementary, but track your actions, not just your outcomes, because actions lead to outcomes, right? And so one of the things that so many people overlook is the power of not just a Google Calendar, but a daily planner that you're writing down every single day. You're talking about your biggest successes. You're talking about your three big priorities for the day. You're writing down your to-do list. You're writing down your meetings, the things that you have to do after that to, again, make sure you win the day. Because if you win the days, you win the week. And if you win the weeks, you win the month. And you get the point because I've already said this. But measurement is key because if you're taking the action, you can measure against it. And you're going to have an outcome if you take action, but it's got to be in your calendar. You got to have that process and that system to be able to do that. Next, we have time use. Time is one we could go into so far, but ultimately, time, it's important to really protect that time and focus on the few things that move the needle. And we could go down the 80-20 path where ultimately, 80% of our revenue comes from 20% of our efforts. But it's really important to hone in on the two or three things that move the needle, that generate revenue, that are most important to the business, and try to delegate everything else, because people will suck our time. Our cell phones, social media, email will suck our time. But we have to focus on the things that are revenue generating, the things that are going to help us achieve this 12-week year that we're after. And so there are a lot of great tactics on how to manage and save your time and protect that, most importantly, because it is, as you know, the most valuable asset. I know you've heard that before. Then the accountability piece here is also really key. No blaming the calendar. Can't blame the market, can't blame your boss, you can't blame the system, but accountability. You have to hold yourself accountable. And I think when you do that, when I do that, I tend to follow through. And again, when I have action, I tend to have an outcome. But you have to then also protect the time. I have to block time, which means putting it on your calendar to do your actions. I found if I say I'm going to do something tomorrow and I know I've got a busy week or I know I've got a busy day, I need to block time 30 minutes just for this task or this activity. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. And so again, does that seem childish? Yes, it does. But guess what? This cell phone, the most powerful device in the world, it's going to take your time. It's going to usurp your time. And so you need to make sure that you are in control, because when you're in control of your time, you have accountability. When you have accountability, shit gets done and you become very successful. So build this system because it forces you to own your results. And, I know that can be uncomfortable, but that's also where growth happens, also where joy happens too. I would say overall, this system works because it compresses your time. It helps you really focus on the most important stuff. It eliminates all the I'll get to it later, all the excuses, all the fluff, all the reasons shit just hasn't gotten done in the past, right? So it helps you build a new mindset where you're in constant motion, constantly adjusting, and consistently executing, which, let's face it, is where most people fall short. It's not about knowing more. It's not about being an expert, but it's really about doing more with what you already know. There's a couple of really awesome quotes I want to read from this book that stuck with me. Now, again, these are things that resonate with me and they may not resonate with you, but I get it. I'd heard some of this stuff before, but it's so powerful when you hear it from someone else. One of the quotes early in the book where the author says, once you understand the linkage between your life vision and your business, success happens. And that's so true because your vision, generally speaking, it's a vision both personally and it's a vision both professionally, hopefully. And guess what? We bring our home life to work and we bring our work to home. You may say, but Chris, no, I don't do that. We all do. And it's okay. Some people do it more than others, and that's fine too. We are all just human beings. We can't help it. But when you can understand what it is you truly want, whether it be for your family or for someone else, for you professionally or for someone else in your workforce, things change and your actions change. That's why that one's important to me. Another one, he says, the page prior, is without a compelling vision, you will discover there is no reason to go through the pain of change. And that's ultimately a big, big part of the equation here, is that change oftentimes is uncomfortable. And for some of us, and sometimes, it's painful. Now, it doesn't mean it hurts. It just means, look, as we get older, it's just hard to change, right? I mean, we all know that. But there is a definite correlation here between the two, and we need to connect them. Now, when it comes to the 12-week year, there's a really compelling why for me, why I thought this hits and why I think this works. And the author states, right at the beginning of chapter 5, is that what he found was that while we plan for the future, we act in the day. We act in the short term, think about the long term. Again, we're not perfect, but with both short-term and long-term vision, we do act in the now, right? And so if we compress things to a 12-week plan, even a monthly plan, monthly goals, we start to win, because there's just so much time where people get distracted, people get bored, people lose track, big life things happen. But if you're close, really, really close, and you're a week out, and something uncomfortable, something maybe borderline catastrophic happens, you're more likely to finish strong than if that goal was 6 months out. One of the final things I'll leave you with here is the execution system on page 75. And I like to think of this as really the glue of the whole thing, because having a 20-plus year career in the marketing and business world, I've always found, and I've said, that you can have the world's greatest strategy created by the world's greatest business person, and if you don't use it, if you don't implement it, it's 100% useless. It's a waste of time, money, and effort. And so I think about the execution system as the follow-through or the implementation system. So execution and implementation means nothing. I mean, strategy means nothing without the implementation. So one of the quotes here is, let's use a computer analogy. You can have the best software money can buy, but if your operating system is not working, those programs are worthless. And so not only do you have to have the program, but you have to use it. And you have to use it consistently over a long period of time to see that success. And so this is important, but the one final element to this is that you have to make it easy, because we as human beings tend to complicate things. We tend to add more goals, tend to add more actions. We tend to get real audacious about what we want to accomplish. But at the end of the day, if you make it simple, it's easy. And guess what? It's always easy when it's successful. So to wrap it up, implementing the 12-week year really changes everything. And I think it'll change everything for you. This is something that I've been working on, something I've been learning about for a very long time. But I stopped waiting until January 1st, and I started implementing now. And, January 1st, May 1st, June 1st can be your magical January 1st. It really, truly can. And you can turn these 12-week sprints into your business success, into your fitness goals, into your business goals, even your content or marketing strategy. And let me tell you, the momentum that you build over this 12-week focused season is crazy insane. So what I'll tell you is that this book is worth the money. I know that there are people out there that say, Chris, I know I don't need this, but I'm telling you, you will have a different perspective. You will have a different view, and you will thank me later. I'm going to give this book an 8.9. That is a pretty high rating for me. I thoroughly enjoyed reading this book. I read it a lot faster than I normally do. I have quite a few Post-it notes in here, as you can see. There's a lot of nuggets, a lot of highlighting and marginalia in there. And there's a reason they've sold so many copies. This is a phenomenal book. If it's not on your radar, it needs to be. Thanks for watching.